We're going to talk about the raid, King's Fall. We both got to experience it today for the first time. We haven't completed it yet. That congratulations goes out to Gathalion, who beat it right before we came in to record.
Yeah, so it was crazy because like for the first 4 bosses, there were about 3 or 4 crews, myself and yours being one of them, that were all kind of neck to neck.
Yeah.
My team lost a little bit of pace on the 3rd encounter, which is the
Ogre?
No, he's the big knight, the really big knight, the priest, the war priest.
Yeah.
Who I misread as Warpiest. And I was like,
that's a different kind of boss.
Yeah,
Sean.
I was like, who's the Warpiest? Why is he deeming me worthy? And I was like, that just sounds like a weird name.
Yeah.
And so now I've just been calling him the Warpiest because I think it's funny. But yeah, we lost a bit of time on War Priest. That's a difficult encounter, and we finally beat him.
I like that encounter a lot.
They're all great, but yeah, we finally beat him, made it to the Ogre, and that's where we're stuck.
Yeah, both of us.
You also got stuck there too, right?
Yeah, we're stuck on the Ogre. We're trying to figure out the best way to get the DPS on the character.
Yeah.
Right now. Let's go back to the beginning of the raid, though. So it starts out pretty easy. You kind of got to move some relics around, and God, it's just fun.
Yeah, so first off, the raid is awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
basically, it has
basically
elements of Vault of Glass. It has teamwork mechanics like the bridge encounter in Crota's End, which is one of my favorite things ever. And I'm just so happy with it. This is a really, really good raid experience.
Yeah, all of the people out there who levied criticism at Bungie for making bullet sponge bosses, well, guess what? Like, the bosses are still strong. You still have to do a lot of damage in order to kill them, but there's a lot of really interesting new mechanics that they've added to boss fights in general, and more specifically the raid, that make them way more interesting and intricate and complex in order to be able to do. For instance, like so far, the War Priest has been my favorite encounter.
Definitely.
It's really, really interesting. I want to talk a little bit about that. Basically, wait, are we allowed to like talk about what? I mean, do we want to talk about what you actually do in the raid?
Yeah, that's fine. Somebody beat it, so the record's out there.
Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know how to do it and you want to explain it, this is where we spoil it all for you.
Yeah.
So the War Priest encounter is awesome because you have this giant knight. He's sitting up on a platform, and you can't damage him. Yeah, you can't damage him at all until you activate these 3 platforms, and you got to do it in a specific order, right? And once you activate...
Do you know you can figure out the order and how?
Yeah, so it took us a while to figure that out. Like,
we had that a little ahead of you, and I'm like, God, like, can I message? Should I text him and let him know?
That would have been nice, but yeah. So there are these 3 giant rocks that we were calling tomes that have an order inscribed in light on the front of the rock, and also if you have someone standing behind them, they light up on the back to tell you which order to activate them in. So we had both. You know, we knew the order in our heads, and then we had Lloyd, one of my Fireteam guys, stand behind on the platform out of sight of the boss and tell us activate left, now activate right, now activate center, and you have to do it in the same order or else you mess up the sequence and you die.
Yeah.
But after you activate the sequence in the proper order, one of you gets a buff that's this red sort of aura that extends in a radius in either direction. And if your whole team stands in it, then you can damage the boss. The problem is it's timed, it runs out after 10 seconds, but if that person has the foresight, they can kill ads, which extends the duration. And so,
but it also speeds up in rage.
Yeah, exactly. It speeds up the. We didn't know that.
Yeah,
interesting.
So if he shoots too many ads too fast, then it speeds up in rage, and then you get less DPS on him. So our strat was let that guy die, and everybody else DPSs him with weapons of light, and it worked amazingly well.
So our thing was that the problem we kept running into was that we weren't doing enough damage. That was the thing, is like the first 10 maybe 11 attempts we couldn't kill him fast enough. Like he would always enrage when we were at like 25%. So we thought about this and we were like, well, if you let the aura at the end of the timer on the aura, it kills the person who has the aura.
Yes.
But you can renew it up to 3 times, which gives you an extra 10 seconds, right? So what we just said was, all right, let's get the first 10 seconds. We'll just do damage.
Yeah.
We'll kill 1 ad, do another 10 seconds, kill another ad, do another 10 seconds, and then on the 3rd one, we just let it kill him. Because
so you just kill 1 ad, and that gives you 10 seconds.
Yeah, that extends it by 10 seconds.
Got it.
But the thing is, you have the first 10 seconds, so you kill an ad, get a new 10 seconds. Kill another ad, get a new 10 seconds.
It's kind of like the poison mechanic on Skolas.
Yeah, but instead of killing a 3rd ad and extending it to the maximum, you let it kill you, because then it moves to a new person.
Yeah.
And they can extend it one more time and then another time. And you could stack it up to almost 90 seconds.
How much damage did you do per section?
We figured a good baseline was about 30%.
Got it.
Like we wanted to do a 3rd his health per tome. You have 3 tomes, right?
Yeah.
There's one in the center, one on the left, one on the right. But on the attempt that we cleared it, we did almost 50%.
Yeah.
Like we just had everything
on the first run.
Yeah, like we had weapons.
First tome.
Yeah, we had weapons of light.
Yeah.
We had a hunter like shackle him down. I was hurling like every single one of my hammers crit, and we were just doing like hella amounts of damage.
Yeah.
But man, like what an awesome encounter! It gets really
like it a
intense.
lot.
Like the way the room is designed makes it so that you have to move. You have to make sure that like. Oh, and the other thing is like he'll activate the Oculus at the end of every arrow.
Oh, and you have to hide.
And you have to hide behind the tomes.
In the shadow.
Like anywhere else, you will get wrecked by the Oculus.
And it's right, center, left.
Yeah, and then when the Oculus activates and destroys everything in the room, it'll also destroy the tome, so you can't hide in that same spot again. And just being able to juggle all of these elements together made it super interesting, and it's just like one of the more complex encounters I've ever done in Destiny, for sure.
Yeah, it was clear, and you were able to figure it out because of how it was designed.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that part. Now we're on the Ogre. Now, the Ogre, I kind of know what to do, but we're having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah,
so,
we have a general strat as well. We've gotten him to 50% once. Every other time we wipe it like 80, and we just can't get it.
Yeah, the Ogre's all about DPS. There's these things you can shoot on the ceiling. They fall down, and if you stand in that, you get a huge...
is his name. Side note. Our fire team just kept calling him Fogoth.
Yeah. That's funny. So anyway, you shoot the things, they fall down, and if you stand in the light, you get a huge damage boost. But if somebody's not in his gaze, then he will
punch people,
destroy you basically on the ground. So we have 2 people dedicated to just keeping his gaze one side or the other side, because you have to shoot him in the back to pull his gaze. So one person has to be on each side of the map. And then there's ad sections where you got to kill ads. It's a very complex thing.
Yeah, there were some people in our Twitch stream who were just saying, like, this just looks like Fogoth. And I'm like, whoa, buddy. Like, just because he's an ogre, like, it's a far more complex...
Don't be alienist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what they are, yeah.
Basically... No, you're right. They're aliens. It's a very, very complex encounter. We have the idea of what you're supposed to do, but we haven't been able to execute it yet. But yeah, like you said, he has 2 weak spots in his stomach and on his back.
Yeah.
What happens when his back is open? He has these like claw things that kind of retract.
Yeah.
And when it's open, you can shoot him in the back for extra damage, but doing so causes them to close, and he gazes at you, which means he shoots hella orbs at you that poison you and do damage, and he also shoots his laser at you.
You can shoot the orbs, though.
You can shoot the orbs,
if you just constantly shoot the orbs, you're fine.
But he shoots a lot of orbs at you, and if you miss one, it poisons you, and then you get slower, which makes them harder to dodge the orbs. So what we've been doing is just running around and dodging them, while the rest of the fire team sits on the floor in front of him, because when he's gazing at these people on the top floor of the room, he doesn't damage people in front of him, and that allows them to use snipers and shotguns to shoot him in the stomach, his other vulnerable spot, for tons amount of damage, and then you get even bonus, like you pointed out, you get even more damage
if you're standing in those
pools. By shooting, we call them raindrops, because you shoot them and it drops like this big glob of water onto the ground, and if you stand in that, you get bonus damage. So like.
And if you die 5 times, you activate a rune in the back, and everybody dies.
Exactly.
Like it's just a wipe.
6 times.
6 times.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so basically what we're aiming at is like the boss still has a ton. Whatever. I don't know. I think it's 6, but I can't remember. The point is that like he's an ogre, but this is a far more complex and different encounter. You're doing a lot more varied things, and you have to be in such great communication with your team in order to be able to make it anywhere near it. And on one great encounter, like I said, we made it to 50%. Every other time we've wiped at 80. It's a very tough encounter.
But I don't feel discouraged at all. I feel like it's doable.
Like it's
just going to take practice as a team and working together. But like I'm not frustrated like I used to get.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Really like it. Going back earlier in the raid, though, there's also another jumping puzzle. Like
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so one of the coolest things that I heard when they were teasing, like what they were just going to be doing with the raid, was more platforming and stuff. There's 2 separate parts where your team has to coordinate and jump across kind of a lot of really complex moving elements. There's these
big swinging like chandelier things.
Yeah, which that one's pretty easy. But yeah, like there's like imagine like American Ninja Warrior or something where you have to run in a straight line to get across, but there are these moving platforms that swing back and forth, and you have to jump from one to the other. If you're not a noob, or if you take your time, it's not hard to land those jumps. The second one, the ships, that's a lot harder. You have to jump
there's
along.
There's a specific pattern. I'm guessing there's hidden stuff in that area too.
Yeah, so there's there's this big chasm that is unjumpable unless you jump along. It's probably like 10, 11, maybe even 12 different ships jumps where you have to jump from one platform onto a ship like a a Taken or whatever, a Hive ship that's warping in from the outside of the dreadnought, and then another one will appear behind you and above you and below you, and you have to figure out the right order in which on them to jump because there's a whole bunch of them going in different directions.
Yeah,
and sometimes they disappear and go to warp, and other times like they try. One's coming right at you, and you're like, that one looks a little too high, but then like by the time it gets to your ship, it's just gonna knock you off unless you move. Like it's really kind of cool, and you just have to like Mario your way across this chasm.
Yeah.
And
it's visually interesting too.
It's fun, it's interesting, and it's just like it wasn't frustrating at all. Like I thought it was super fun to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not very hard, like once you figure it out, but like you pointed out, there's probably a lot of like
stuff we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, or like if you take a different route, like you'll find,
a chest.
Yeah, a chest or a ghost or something like that. Like I don't know what it is, but that's super cool to me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, I'm really enjoying the raid. I can't wait to complete it. But yeah, big thumbs up from us.
Yeah, same here. I wish I could talk about Oryx more because we haven't even made it there yet.
I saw him. That's it.
Yeah, I saw him.
Gathalion stream.
Yeah, I jumped in on Gathalion stream just to see where they were, and I looked at the encounter and I was like, whoa, that looks cool. And at that point, I was like, I don't want to look more because I wanted to experience it for myself. But so far, yeah, huge thumbs up for the raid from me. Like the mechanics are really interesting. I would love to emphasize that they're complex. Like it's not just like avoid getting attacked and shoot him a lot. You have to do all kinds of things in order to be able to damage bosses, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and like unless you're a hardcore Destiny player, I don't know if you'll ever play this raid.
That's the other thing.
It's 290.
Yeah, I feel like it's really hard. Yeah. I feel like it's really hard. There are a lot of people out there who are, if you're playing solo or if your Fireteam, just likes to take things at their own pace. Like they're at 250, 260 light.
Yeah. I
put in just a monumental amount of time over one night.
The last 3 days, we've stayed up super late.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you and Jose have been up until like 3 a.m. every day. I skipped out on Wednesday and Thursday because I had stuff to do here, and then I just put in a 12-hour balls to the wall, like as efficient farming as you can with the best players that I know farming.
Plus, there's like
and I got
people out there now. They're like, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah,
and it'll help you get there.
Yeah, I was very lucky to have the experience of these guys. They were like, okay, do you have this quest, this quest, this quest? Okay, those ones give you marks.
Yeah, and
I had this like, for those of you wondering how I went from 237 to 283 light in one night. I laid out a strategy. Like I laid out a strategy. Yeah, like I was like, the first things you got to do is you got to do these quests that all give you marks, right? Because you're going to collect marks in order to buy like a ghost or like a PvP weapon. Then I had hundreds of motes of light that I spent on rep with your faction because every time you rank up a faction, you get a legendary package, which could be better than what you're using. So I did a bunch of those. I farmed Court of Oryx so much. Special thanks to God, I'm forgetting the people I have to shout out to, but there's two people that I have to shout out to, which I will do later on, who basically allowed us to use that swapping mechanism that allows you to use more people in Court of Oryx. You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so you can only use 3 people per fire team in Court of Oryx, but if you send one person over to a new fire team, have those other 2 players back out, and then have that person invite you back over, you can do it with 6 people as opposed to 3. So that allowed us to do tiers 1, 2, and 3 way faster and more times than everyone else because we can use everyone's runes. So I did that for like 3 hours, and I jumped from like 237 to like 260, and then at that point I started farming the heroic strikes and the nightfall, and I did, I don't know, 30 strikes or something like that.
I like the nightfall a lot too.
Nightfall
just a
awesome.
Perfect amount of challenge.
Oh, can we talk about the new strikes too? New strikes are awesome.
Yeah, and
like,
the fact that
cool.
you're rewarded for staying in them.
Yes,
that's so good.
Awesome strikes, like just another great thing that they iterated upon,
and that they changed that the Taken are in some of them.
Yeah, the Taken are in some of them, and sometimes you'll get like I played the same strike a couple of times, and sometimes it'd be the regular Cabal, sometimes it'd be the Taken, and they play differently now because they're different enemies. That's super cool. And yeah, you just farm your way all the way up. But I had like a set plan, and people were like, this quest, and then we're going to do Court of Oryx. And then after that, hopefully you'll be at 260, and then we can do the Nightfall. And then after the Nightfall, hopefully you're there, and that's how I did
What'd you get on the Nightfall?
Like, what do you mean?
What'd you get for a reward?
I can't remember.
Anything good?
No, not that I remember. Oh, I think I got marks.
Really?
I think so.
like 25 or something.
I remember having like a remark being like, "That's it."
I got Zer's 3 of coins. I got 5 of them.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I needed armor.
Yeah, no, I think...
I needed armor or a weapon, and I got this thing. And then I burned one, and we killed some ultras, and I didn't get anything. And then I burned another one on the raid, and I didn't get anything. I'm like, why? What?
That's my thing, is I have gotten no armor or weapons from the raid yet, and I used 3 of coins the whole time. I haven't gotten anything from quests or strikes or anything. I've been very unlucky. I did get 1 exotic from a legendary engram.
Oh,
and
nice.
It was
something new?
No, it's the Crest of Alpha Lupi.
Okay.
Lupi, whatever. I don't
bummer.
know. It's fine though. It's the piece I'm using, and the chess piece is pretty good. And then I got the one piece I got so far in the raid was I got a really nice ghost shell. It's a 309 or 310
nice.
or something.
I need one of those.
Yeah,
I
and
need
that
a
bumped
ghost
me up a
shell.
lot too.
I need
'cause
an
I was
artifact
using...
and a ghost shell. Those are my lowest stats right now.
Yeah, so that's I mean, that's how I did it. That's what I got, and it's been really cool so far.
Cool. All right, I think that's all we need to talk about raid-wise.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on forever and ever, but we're already long.
We're loving the DLC, so it's great. Any last thoughts, Sean?
No, I mean, follow me on Twitter at I'm Finnegan. I'm going to be playing a lot of Destiny, as I'm sure you are. So if you want to come talk to me about that or ask me about quests and strategies and all that stuff, I'm obviously available for that. I played some really interesting game this week that I can't quite talk about, but you'll hear about it all next week. So come talk to me about that one too on Twitter.
An interesting game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's about it for me.
Follow me on Twitter at Destin Laguerre. If you like the show, check out go.ign.com/store. We have a t-shirt there you can buy, and leave us a review on iTunes. That helps us out if you like it. If you don't, I don't think you've listened this long. So, but thanks anyway. Until next time, Guardians out. We're a little tired.